What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. Pokémon has had certain ideas come up multiple times over the years. Sometimes they're quality additions like poisonous snakes, but not all of them can be so stellar. And in fact, some of these concepts end up being worse. They can be redeemed on occasion, like say with bats. Whereas I would see Swoobat as a downgrade from Crobat, these sound dragons from Kalos more than make up for it. So let's take a look at what I believe to be the top 6 worst repeated ideas in Pokémon. Number 6. Fire-type monkeys. I was seriously considering putting Fire-type turtles here instead because Torkoal is amazing and Turtonator is not so great. But I guess he could be more of an acquired taste, so I think the margins might be even bigger in the monkey crowd. Now, I will just say I personally am not the biggest fan of the Chimchar line, mostly due to design reasons, but I can recognize that they are quite useful in battle, and I know that they are beloved by many. So why would they, in the very next generation, repeat this idea but do it even worse? If you ask me, Pansear and Simisear are not even the worst of the elemental monkeys, but according to Japan, it is their least favorite Pokémon. Maybe that comes from copying a starter from the previous games, but doing it with shoddy workmanship. Seriously, at least wait a little while before ripping yourself off, and what made it even worse is that they doubled down on Unova with the Darmanitan line. That's not to say that Darmanitan is bad, it's actually the fire monkey that I like the most, and why this idea is at the bottom of the list. But doing 2 copies of such a popular Pokémon so soon makes it hard to ignore and, unfortunately, smells of creative bankruptcy. I'm not saying it's true necessarily, but the optics aren't great, especially when we've had a decade since that supposed low point. So replicating such a particular set of circumstances in rapid succession makes the Fire Monkey wear out its welcome a lot sooner than it should. But I tell you what, if they make one more of these things, it's shooting way up the list. Number 5. Normal-type rabbits. We've had some other rabbit Pokémon, how many might count is up for debate, but Bunnies and Lopunny instantly became the go-to icons for this creature in the franchise. Even I picked one up for at least a gym badge or 2 in my journey through Sinnoh, and these Pokémon have remained pretty prominent since then. And it's not that hard to see why with their pleasant, fuzzy, and cute designs. Lopunny even received a Mega Evolution with a new typing once Gen 6 came around. But speaking of Gen 6, this is where the problem lies. Bunnelby is a pretty okay Pokémon, I guess. It's a decent counterpart to Bunnies, but then it had to go and evolve. I've enumerated my grievances with Diggersby many times before, so I will spare you the details of why it's an embarrassment, because I think that's pretty evident just by looking at it. They didn't need to make it so gross, but if they had to, they could have just made it a random ground type from around the region like they did with ground type hippos, instead of cursing the regional rodent with such disgrace. Basically, what I'm saying is they didn't need to make it a normal type at all, to make people inevitably draw comparisons to the last normal bunnies, and to have them look at the rougher edges in contrast to the elegance of their previous efforts. I'm not against using the same basis multiple times, just make sure it's a worthy follow-up instead of a demotion. Number 4. Poison-type Blobs. I truly do not understand when people criticize Grimer's design. It's just a pile of poisonous sludge. That might be simple, but that doesn't make it bad. I think it's a great idea for a poison type. Muck, I can understand a little condemnation because it's just a slightly bigger massive pollution, but the idea was still a solid basis for some Pokémon. However, apparently that wasn't enough for the folks in charge, since they dipped their toe into the pool again with the Gulpin line. Now, I know they're not exactly the same, but these are still blobs of poison even if they've added the light flair of some whiskers and feathers. Honestly, I don't know if they're based on slugs or somebody's nightmares, but I could not help but draw a line back to the sewer monsters of Gen 1 as soon as I saw these poison bags of Hoenn. I don't guess I'm saying that Gulpin and Swalot are terrible. I did use one once, but I just don't know what it is, and I'm not sure that they do either, other than an attempt to recapture some magic from the good old days. But if we're talking about emulating past successes, we've got to mention Black and White. It's no secret that many people have linked certain Unova Pokémon to past shall we say, inspirations. Some of this is fairer than others, but it happened again in the poisonous blob category, this time with Trubbish and Garbodor. At least this time they are more specific, being made out of garbage, but that arguably makes them more connected to Grimer and Muck for being comprised of man-made waste. I won't pile on the hate for these trash heaps, but I will say they have tried twice now and have not been able to duplicate the charming simplicity that made this idea work the first time. But I guess that's to be expected when you keep regurgitating a premise that was so limited to begin with. But hey, at least the Alolan versions are pretty cool. Number 3. Fighting type dudes. Look, fighting is my least favorite type, and this is largely why. In the beginning, we had pure fighting monsters that were somewhat unique, and while they had humanoid characteristics, only a few of them were mainly human. But then this persevered into the next several generations, like in Hoenn when we got both Medicham and Hariyama. Now, I actually like Medicham, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it seems like they don't know how to make a fighting type without it just being a person, only allowing them to draw from any other inspiration when a secondary type was added to trigger a shred of imagination. This reached a fever pitch in Gen 5 when almost all of the fighting types in the whole region were just people. Even the Mienshao line leans to the human side of a weasel or whatever it is, but that seems to be the only alright one. The Scrafty family has lizard traits, but also wears clothes just to make sure that you know they're human. Mercifully, it seems that they have finally learned that they can use anything else to represent a pure fighting Pokémon, but human Pokémon just don't tend to work as well, especially when that is the only thing that you have to offer for a single type over the first dozen or so years of your franchise. A couple at the start were okay, and some fine additions since then, but the inclusion of faded photocopy versions over and over really dilutes the prospect of making more. So can we please leave this idea alone for the rest of time? I think we've done enough here. Number 2. Grass-type Cotton. As the first grass and flying types, the Jumpluff line are certainly notable, if overlooked at times. They aren't dripping with raw strength, but after using one, I have come to appreciate its support for a team. However, this was not the last time we saw light, fluffy Cotton. Gen 5 gave us Cottony and its evolution Whimsicott. At the time, I was confused as to why they were revisiting something so specific when we still don't have a platypus and plenty of other animals that need a shot. I'm not very taken with their designs, but at least they do have useful gimmicks for battle as well, such as Prankster. And they got the fairy type added, so that's something. I guess there are some people that love these versions out there, but to me they are a step down. And that might not be bad enough on its own, but then they went ahead and did this again to even less effect in the most recent games with Eldegoss. I know that they also made Gossifleur, but that's not quite to the Cotton stage, and I still find it to be one of the most forgettable Pokemon there is. But Eldegoss is like a dime store version of Whimsicott, which was already a repeat of Jumpluff. The Cotton down ability is nice, but I don't understand the fascination with this one plant. I mean, I know that it's an extremely versatile one, but getting multiple Pokemon only to see diminishing returns makes me wonder why they keep revisiting that well when it's clearly run dry. If you can't come up with ideas to differentiate the grass types, say in the way that mushroom Pokemon have been, then maybe try something else for the first time instead of a familiar for the third. Besides, I'm pretty sure Eldegoss is at least 20% polyester, so... Number 1. Meowth. Just Meowth. The original cat Pokemon is clearly popular with creators and fans alike, and this was clearly the intent being drawn as a rival to Pikachu of sorts, even down to their dex numbers being inverted. And of course, we got the famous Meowth of Team Rocket, which might make you adore the Scratch Cat, or just get annoyed by them because it's been a constant presence since Gen 1. Not even Jigglypuff got that kind of persistent exposure. So it can be hard to miss a Pokemon when it never goes away, but that didn't stop them from setting up Meowth with a regional form in Alola. Now, I know many people are quite taken with the sassy demeanor of this tropical variant, and I can appreciate the wealth of character they created, But that sort of gets undermined when the atrocity that is Alolan Persian follows. A good ability is all they've got going for it, and that is not enough to make up for its horrific oversized head. And if that was it, I could deal with it, but for some reason, they can't let this cat go, because in the very next games, they also gave us more regional forms of Meowth, this time as a Viking Steel type? I feel like we're getting away from the core of this Pokémon. It's not that they can't do a Norse cat made out of metal if they want, but why does it have to be one from before that already had a regional form? It's not like they're hurting for cat Pokémon, they do it all the time and usually do it well. Skitty is one of my favorites. People love Glameow and Esper too. But instead of getting a new cat in the Galar region, we got a crazy bearded Meowth and a towering Gigantamax form that looks like it stayed on the racks a little too long. Seriously, 2 forms of Meowth when Eevee only got 1? I'm surprised we didn't get a Let's Go version with their favorite cat on the cover. It started as a joke, but are we actually going to get a Meowth of each type? Honestly, I had no clue that Meowth was held in such high esteem by those in charge, and it's not like I hate the thing, but 3 new forms in 2 generations seems a little over the top. The first time was good, and each successive attempt has drifted further and further away. So can we please try any other cat from now on, and stop trying to improve on something that doesn't actually need it? So, those are the top 6 worst repeated ideas in Pokémon. What similar origins do you think were letdowns? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!